On Overdrive today, we get behind the wheel of the top-of-the-line Lotus Electra. Find out why we've come away impressed with the Ather Apex scooter, and we drive Ferrari's first hybrid sports car in an unfamiliar territory, city traffic. Hello and welcome to our very first edition of Overdrive for 2024. I am Soini Dutt. Let me start by wishing you all a very happy new year. Now, from insane acceleration to plush interiors, you will end up questioning everything you thought you knew about the brand Lotus. So is it the Electra? Is it a nod to tradition, or is it a complete departure from sports car legacy? Let's find out.
What a contrasting week this has been for me. At the start of the week, I was cruising down the Malibu coast and I saw this tangerine Lotus Esprit. Beautiful, lightweight and so desirable. And then at the end of the week, I'm driving this, the Electra. What a stark contrast for Lotus. It's electric, it's made in China, not UK, and it's heavy.
Lotus, we all know them for their lightweight wonders. Cars that dance through the corners like they are on a mission from the driving gods. But with the Electra, you might think they've thrown the rule book out the window. Weighing in at a hefty 2.5 tons. But don't be too hasty to judge.
The batteries do make it a bit of a heavyweight, but it has a power-to-weight ratio of over 360 PS to a ton. That's more punch than your average heavyweight boxer. That's more punch than the Urus Performante.
And this is the R variant, decked out with the air springs, rear wheel steering and a 48-volt active anti-roll system. It's not just a car, it's a symphony of engineering brilliance orchestrated by the maestros at Lotus.
Sounds a bit complex for a Lotus, yeah? But it's all good. You see, the rear axle steering can steer the rear wheels by up to 9 degrees. That's pretty good compared to some of the similar tech that's offered on the other sports cars. It certainly makes this 5.1 meter long SUV feel like a hatchback when you're having to make U-turns in tight spaces. Now, of course, when it comes to handling, it's not a ballet dancer like some of its sports car siblings. You just can't hide all that weight. Let's be real, it is a heavy car. But when you compare it to cars from its own realm, electric vehicles, electric SUVs, there it's certainly far, far better. It can leave the iX, the e-tron and the likes eating dust. There's minimal body roll. This thing feels like it is on rails. It feels like it's glued to the road. So that weight doesn't really take away the driving fun. That's the point that I'm trying to drive across. There's near equal weight distribution. There is equal power distribution front and rear. Like I said, minimal body roll as well. So the handling package is so good, it almost feels as good as the Cayenne Turbo. Almost.
Looks like understeer and oversteer are on vacation with the Electra. But the steering could do with a better feel and the brakes should have been less grabby. And even gets all-wheel drive made possible by a dual motor setup, both of which are standard across the range.
Now for the R variant, hold your horses. There are 900, in fact more than 900 horses that this thing puts out. That's more horses than an Arab Sheikh stable. It goes from 0 to 100 in 2.9 seconds. That's blisteringly quick. That's very, very fast, even by normal standards. Depending on your driving conditions, your whims and fancies, the R version can give you between 350 to 400 kilometers of driving range, which I think for this kind of performance is phenomenal. But if you're okay to settle for a slightly humbler performance, you can get a vehicle that goes a longer distance, the base or the S variants.
Every version of the Electra boasts of a 112 kilowatt-hour battery pack under the floor, capable of slurping up electricity at a mind-bending rate of 350 kilowatts. Inside the Electra, it's a whole different ballgame. Forget your usual functional and bare-bones Lotus interiors. This one's got plushness written all over it. We are talking microfiber, stitched leather, wool blend fabric. They've thrown everything at it. And those machine speaker housings and mill switches, it's like they raided a luxury yacht for parts. Oh wait, or was it Volvo?
The dashboard is dominated by this colossal 15.1-inch screen, which is powered by Geely's eCar X infotainment system. What I'm interested in is that all this infotainment software that you see is powered by the Unreal Engine, which is why you get this nice slick interface, you get nice animations, you can see the whole car. Even if you turn on the turn blinkers, you can see it on the screen itself. So all of that is really nice. It really tickles the geek in me. Furthermore, even the air conditioning is controlled using the screen. Of course, you can just increase or drop the temperature using these knurled knobs on the tunnel console. But even to adjust the flow of the air vents, you have to use the screen. Very much like the Taycan. Quite fancy, yeah?
They have kept things minimal on the instrumentation front, complemented by a rich, full-color heads-up display.
It's like Lotus went from more is less to less is on the screen. But speaking of screens, there are screens in the front and also screens at the back. We'll come to that in a bit. Let's first take a look at the seating.
You can squeeze in 3 at the back, but the one in the Spotlight here has 2 plush buckets with legroom for days and headroom that's surprisingly decent despite the swooping roofline. And you use that screen to adjust them to your liking.
The comfort in these seats, both in the front buckets as well as the rear, is so good that I'm not surprised to see the sport touring credentials that this electric vehicle has. And at the same time, you don't really feel being thrown around. Even with the insane acceleration of this R variant, you're not tossed around as if you are some socks in a tumble dryer. They've also thrown in active noise cancellation, which can drop the cabin sound levels by up to 5 decibels to give it that cocooned feeling. It's a plush interior. In fact, I won't be surprised to see this car being chauffeur driven. It's that level of posh. If you fancy a bit of tech wizardry or you want to be a part of this AI trend, you have these LiDAR sensors, these big pieces of hardware just popping out and retracting through different parts of the bodywork. It definitely looks cool, feels like some cool James Bond gadget, and it's a cool conversation starter.
With the Eletre, Lotus pulls out plenty of aero magic too. Hidden vents, air channels, active flaps in the bumper. It's a bit of porosity, as they like to call it. The result? A slick 0.26 coefficient of drag, making it extremely slippery against the wind.
Now, if it's about basking in the history, the heritage of Lotus's classic sports cars, the Eletre may not be your cup of tea. It has taken a detour from that traditional book. But if you're looking for a forward-looking, futuristic SUV, something that's supercharged, pun intended, and one that will put a smile on your face every time you take it out for a spin, whether it's in the city, out on the twisties, out on the highway, well, the Eletre could be your golden ticket.
Well, you have to admit, electric sports cars are a completely different breed of machines all by themselves. Now, let us know in our comment section on our YouTube channel what you think of the Lotus Electra and electric sports cars. We'll be back after a very short break with Ather's most powerful electric scooter, the Apex. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Now, the Ather Apex is the latest iteration of the current generation Ather 450X, and it also happens to be the fastest of the electric scooters. Here's Chris with more.
Bangalore-based EV scooter manufacturer Ather Energy is celebrating 10 years of existence in the country. But to commemorate 10 years of existence, the company has come out with this iteration of the 450 scooter. This is the Ather Apex 450. It has some design changes, it has some software upgrades, and most importantly, it makes more power. Let's start off with what's new with this one. All the fiber parts are the same shape as before, just that this model also gets these see-through panels at the rear that highlight the skeletal subframe of the scooter, which is interesting. Now, you also have a new catchy shade of blue that's unique to the 450 Apex, and this along with the bright orange highlights means that you'll rarely go unnoticed when you're whizzing through the city on this Ather. While the 7-inch capacitive touchscreen display is the same as before, the Apex also gets vibrant colors in its UI that make it look a lot livelier now. And there's also another interesting bit about the scooter that you can't see as well. and it has to do with the regenerative braking system. With any regular electric scooter, if you are at 100% state of charge, you'll find the resistance of the regenerative braking system to kick in very mildly at first, when you roll off the throttle that is, and only properly step in when the battery is at about 80% SOC, because the energy being regenerated would generally have to be stored in some place. But with the Apex, Ather say that it has configured the scooter's regenerative braking system to work a lot more consistently even at 100% SOC. So there are some obvious visual differentiation factors that separate this Apex model from the existing 450 series scooters, but a really interesting bit of kit on this particular model has to be the magic twist throttle feature, which basically implies that if you add negative input into the throttle, well, it really acts as a strengthened version of the regenerative braking. So you really don't have to use the brakes technically to bring the scooter to a halt in a jiffy, because, well, it slows down tremendously when compared to the regular off the throttle action on this particular scooter. You see, once you roll off the throttle, you feel the regen kick in normally, slowing things down in a way you expect it to. Add some negative input to that and the rate of rolling resistance increases, along with a more rapid rate of deceleration. It did take some time to get used to, but once I got the grasp of the rate of deceleration with the magic twist throttle, it was easy to navigate the course at speeds you would normally associate with a ride in the city. Now, while riding in WAP Plus, constantly on it for around 10 to 15 minutes, the system did appear to fade a bit. But, well, that's the scooter's heat management's way of telling you to ease off a bit. But the scooter didn't fail to impress me one bit. So the Ather 450 Apex, well, it has technically the same underpinnings and hardware as the existing 450 model that's already sold out in the market. So you have the same suspension, the same wheels, the same brakes, the same tires, everything's the same, including the IP66 rated motor, the 3.7 kilowatt hour battery. But now peak power is up from 6.4 from before to 7 kilowatt, and that allows this scooter to accelerate from 0 to 40 in a claimed 2.9 seconds as compared to the 3.3 seconds it took before. Now, if you've ridden the regular 450X in WAP mode, you'll know that it's real fun and exciting, and in that sense, you could see WAP Plus mode as taking the excitement factor up a notch higher. The Apex maintains its impressive performance and ride dynamics of the regular Gen 3 450X model, feeling light, agile, and always up for a quick ride. It is also the first 450 from Ather which is configured to actually hit a top speed of 100 kmph, which is 10 km per hour more than the other models that came before it. The Apex in any other ride mode boasts a marginally better range over the regular models thanks to the new software upgrades. Now, Ather tell us that the Apex is the last version of the scooter that's based on this current 450X platform. Now, the next scooter will have a completely new body shape, chassis, and possibly underpinnings as well. So, it's like they went all out in terms of performance with this scooter setup and made it the fastest version yet because, well, this is like the final hurrah for this particular model. Now, what exactly is the Ather 450 Apex? Well, for starters, it is the most fun iteration of the 450X that currently exists in the country because, well, there is WAP Plus mode, more power on tap, the magic throttle, and yes, clearly there is a stronger emphasis on performance with this particular scooter, and that is just brilliant because, well, it goes to show once you actually get your hands on it and you ride it. It is a lot quicker, it feels a lot quicker than the existing Pro package 450X. But of course, you are going to be paying a substantial fee over the cost of the other model because this one doesn't avail of any government subsidies, but the cost includes a 750 watt charger, a hand painted helmet they say, and of course a TPMS system. So this isn't your usual, what you would term as your usual conventional electric family scooter because, well, it is a fun performance-oriented scooter at the end of the day.
Well, do you think that the Ather Apex is the strongest competitor in its segment right now? Let us know in the comment section on our YouTube channel. We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll get you acquainted with the Ferrari 296 GTB, that too in the city. Welcome back here with us on Overdrive. Now, Ferrari launched the brand's very first hybrid sports car in India in August 2022. Now the 296 GTB is tech heavy, it's also got a V6 twin turbocharged engine. But what we're here to find out is, could this be your daily driver? It's time to find out.
Now the 296 GTB takes the rulebook that's set for what a mid-engine Ferrari supercar should look like and pretty much tears it up. To start with, it's not a V8 anymore. It's the first ever Ferrari badged V6, and to rile you up even more, it's now a plug-in hybrid. But I'm not complaining. This is the first time that I get to drive a Ferrari, and the fact that I'm doing it in typical Mumbai traffic should make the experience quite interesting. Make a list of the best looking cars around right now and it will be difficult to leave the 296 GTB out of this. Even in this offbeat deep blue shade, the aura on this compact supercar is striking. The smooth, soft bodywork hides a fully functional aerodynamic package which seems to be heavily F1 inspired. There's air channels to reduce drag and aid downforce, but a big departure from Ferrari mid-engine norm is the freestanding roof design that now acts as an aero element in itself. Similarly, the spoiler too is now meant to increase downforce at low speeds and reduce drag as you go faster. And then it's a plug-in hybrid, so coming to what is really the star of the show, the way this engine is, it's parked in pretty deep into the frame of the car, so to speak. It's quite a flat 120-degree V6, so been able to package it really nicely. So with all the battery stuff, all the electric motors deep inside, it's still really deep into the chassis of the car and very low. So weight distribution, handling, all of that has been given a lot of focus when even the engine has been packed into this car. Once you're inside, there's this cockpit, very similar to what you see on the SF90. Quite a departure from the norm. There's no central screen, which means it's good news for the driver. So you control everything through here, through this big whole screen here. Of course, it has everything that you would need in a modern car, all your navigation and all your gauges and dials. And that typical yellow backlit Ferrari gauge cluster that's still been recreated quite realistically in even this full digital layout. And then, of course, you've heard this many times in pretty much every Ferrari that's been reviewed, are these quite controversial controls for the steering wheel. Also, these panels, the way they come up in front of you for the lighting, the mirrors on this side and the climate control here, it's really quite easy. And yeah, again, for the passenger, they have a whole separate screen for them, a seat heating function. They can see all the performance stats right from this screen here, which is a really neat touch. So even the passenger sort of is in on the mood, so to speak. The cohesive look of the Ferrari 296 GTB hides an especially complex powertrain. You have a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 that makes 666 PS, making it the most power-dense production car engine on sale now. A single electric motor is nestled between the engine and a new 8-speed DCT that makes 167 PS and also acts as a starter motor, fed by a 7.45 kWh battery pack that runs just behind the seats, making a combined 830 PS and 740 Nm. The Ferrari will go from 0 to 100 kmph in 2.9 seconds and reach a 330 kmph top speed in the top qualifying mode. A better sense of this thing's relentless performance comes from the 0 to 200 kmph time of 7.3 seconds. Now you know it's going to be a slightly different experience driving this when you realize that you can set off an entirely electric power alone, of course, if you have the battery charged. So just pull the pedal and it's pretty much like an EV, completely calm and serene. And you can, if you are pretty gingerly with the throttle, you can drive it in electric power for about 25 kilometers. So a short commute, if it's in, say, traffic or within the city, like how we are right now, it's very easy to do, say, short commutes without even bothering the petrol engine. But we aren't going to miss up on this opportunity. So what you can easily do is just move to the performance mode. The engine revs up. And it's every bit of that really sharp edge, really raw, that Ferrari sort of anger that you experience just even looking at these cars. You have that in these also. And here, invariably, will come up to a speed hump, where surprisingly the 296 GTB has a good amount of ground clearance. Even at these low speeds, there's a sharp wail filling the cabin as you work through the power band. Quite unlike the turbo engines, there's little in the way of hesitation with this motor. There's a nearly uninterrupted supply of power, which seems to keep rising in volume as you get nearer to the red line. The responses are especially sharp, helped by the quick-witted DCT gearbox that seems to fade away in the background in the best possible way. The 296 GTB will make you notice most of the patched road surfaces and cat's eyes you go over, but there's a pliant edge to this that makes it endurable for everyday use. The 296 GTB is stunning to look at, feels like an event to be inside despite some oddities, and is brimming with the kind of exciting, connective driving experience that we all seem to think will soon be lost.
With that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms, and you can write to us on our YouTube channel as well. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.